Alright, let's do this one last time.
Now let's get one thing straight. In my last video, I clearly said I was concerned about the visuals and performance for this game. I did not say the game would suck, and I did not comment too much on the story because I didn't know much about it. And so anyone who felt like I was hating on this game needs to rewatch that video and rethink what they were saying. Now, with that being said, when it comes to Rise of the Ronin, my concerns were in fact correct. Let's talk about why. I'll admit that there are times when the game can look pretty good with the sunlight and some of the ray tracing and some of the colors from the trees and the environment in the game, but those moments are not very often, and sometimes you have to set up the camera and scenery to make it happen. For majority of your time here, at least what I played so far in my first few hours, the game is going to continue to look very drab and washed out, and the character models themselves look really bad. And while this game obviously has nothing to do with Ghost of Tsushima, it is obvious that there is clear inspiration from Ghost of Tsushima. So anyone who tries to disagree or say that it is not true, you just need to sit down and pay attention. And it is baffling that Ghost of Tsushima was originally a PlayStation 4 game, and even then, it looked far superior than Rise of the Ronin in terms of visuals, performance, and graphics. Now, Rise of the Ronin has really horrible pop-in, and the only reason why I am able to somewhat tolerate the issues with visuals and performance is because I did put around 200 hours into Tears of the Kingdom, but this is PlayStation 5. This is superior hardware to the Nintendo Switch. We should be getting much more from these developers, especially on the current gen console like PlayStation 5. Now, in my first video, I did say that with Rise of the Ronin, I was very interested in the game's combat, and honestly, I am a bit impressed. I'm not a fan of Souls games or Soul-like games, and with this one, the combat is pretty fair. It is all about your timing, especially when it comes to those perfect counters that you need to do to not only block your enemy's attacks, but really deplete their ki and go in for that ultimate kill when you have that moment. And especially when it comes to these perfect counters, when you have the ki system, it's a very interesting mechanic they use here, as it's kind of like a duel of whose ki will drop first between yours and your opponent, as it is very important to manage your ki to make sure you're not fatigued in battle, which would then prevent you from fighting as well as dodging your enemy attacks, and that could put you in a very bad position, which could lead to you dying. It's also more so important to manage your ki when you are up against multiple enemies, because an enemy may attack you from behind that you are not aware of, and that's going to cause more problems for you during your combat. And blocking an enemy's fire arrow or bullet at the perfect time will ignite your weapons in fire, which is really badass, which of course will allow you to deal more damage, and it just looks really cool. Now, of course, Ghost of Tsushima does have great combat as well, but these two games do have some similarities and differences when it comes to combat. And while Ghost of Tsushima does have some brutal moments, Rise of the Ronin will have many more of these brutal scenes, such as much more decapitations throughout your gameplay. And just like Ghost of Tsushima, it is pretty cool that you are able to switch between various stances in combat in Rise of the Ronin. You can also switch between two sub-weapons like a rifle and a bow and arrow, or throwing stars and a bow and arrow, whatever you choose to have as your two sub-weapons. However, I felt there was a missed opportunity to save multiple sets of two sub-weapons that you can switch between those sets on the fly, similar to how you can save a set of 4 items and then have 3 different sets of those items saved that you can switch between on the fly. That was kind of a missed opportunity in my opinion, and something that could have been much more intuitive for combat in this game. Now, as I did say, combat is a bit fair in this game compared to other Souls games and Souls-like games that I've tried, but there are moments where the game will still be challenging, and you do have a few options here. You can try a different strategy, maybe fight differently, a different stance, different weapons. You can try a different approach altogether, like going into stealth mode and trying that as your option. Or if you want, you can change the difficulty to an easier option if you feel like doing that. But I found going the route of finding a different approach to your encounter the best option, because it gives you the opportunity to experiment with some of the other mechanics. Even though stealth is a bit wonky, it still has its moments and it still can be pretty cool to try. I had a mission where I got completely destroyed by 3 enemies and a dog, and when I respawned, I found out I can grapple to the roof and then grapple to a tree over to another area and skip that fight completely, and therefore save my health for the upcoming battle instead. So stuff like that makes the game a bit more interesting in terms of exploration and kind of figuring out what method works best for you. And I actually appreciated that. Now, dialogue is where I have a bit of a problem, because I prefer to have a fully voiced protagonist, but instead your protagonist has a couple of voice lines here and there, but for the most part you will be choosing various dialogue options for your conversations, but they aren't voiced by any actor to say those lines. It's just you choose your dialogue and then it goes into the next line from the person you are conversing with. And these dialogue options do have different outcomes that may change your story, as well as having the option to unlock various dialogues with different mechanics behind it, a different type of class or theme, if you will. For example, you can lie to a person for whatever outcome that will give you, or you can choose like a charm to kind of like get them to give you more information. So that kind of mechanic does play a role here as well. Now, when it comes to character creation, I found the character customization to be pretty good. I almost spend no time in any character customization, but I did spend a bit of time here trying to decide which of the 2 protagonists I wanted to play as, either male or female, and how I wanted that character to look, or even both characters to look. And I felt playing as the badass female Ronin was the way to go. And I believe you are able to go into your lodge and then change your appearance into the other Ronin if you choose to do so. I haven't tried it yet, but I did see an option to do it, so I'm assuming it is possible. Now, with traversal, that's where things also become interesting, because you have horseback riding, which is okay. You can upgrade the speed, but horseback is not going to be as good as something like Ghost of Tsushima or even Red Dead Redemption. And the gliding is just meh. You're not going to get anything even remotely close to Batman Arkham Knight, where you can dive bomb to gain more momentum and even use a grapple boost to increase your momentum and speed and keep the glide going. You, of course, can keep your glide going by having various kites in the air that you can grapple to, as well as other grapple points that are eligible for you to continue your glide, but it's not going to increase your speed or momentum in the same way that Batman does in the Arkham games with the grapple boost, and that kind of sucks. I was kind of hoping for a Ghost of Tsushima mixed with Batman type of glide here, and we don't really get that here, unfortunately. But the grapple is pretty cool. It does have a few mechanics that you can use it with, whether it's traversal to get around some buildings or even combat, and that includes pulling an enemy towards you or throwing items at the enemy, or even using the grapple in stealth, which you would then pull a unsuspecting enemy to your location and then do an assassination kill. Now, this game has also been compared to a bit of an Assassin's Creed meets Ghost of Tsushima, but you're not going to be climbing buildings in the same sense as Assassin's Creed, and that's where the grapple is where you would rely on climbing your buildings. So it has its uses here and there, but it could have been better in my opinion, but at least it is better than what we see in Ghost of Tsushima's grapple, so that's a good thing. I know I've been comparing this game to Ghost of Tsushima throughout this first preview, or first impressions video rather, but that's kind of what the game really is. It's more so of a comparison or inspiration from Ghost of Tsushima, so why not? Now, from what I played so far, Rise of the Ronin has been interesting, although the game can look ugly, especially character models, and dialogue is just boring, and your protagonist is not really fully voiced. They have a few lines and that's about it. It's really just how massive the world is, which I haven't seen a lot of it yet, and I heard it's massive. The combat has its different tricks and skills that you can learn, and it has different approaches to how you want to handle your fights. That's really what I'm here for, is how the combat can get better and better, how the exploration can get better, and what turns will the story take as I continue to progress through the game. I'm waiting to see what surprises will hit me next, and I'm gonna have a full review hopefully in the next few days. But this is my first impressions of Rise of the Ronin, so let me know in the comments what you think about this game so far. If you are playing it, do you feel that they kind of dropped the ball with the development of the visuals and performance? Because my god, it's not a pretty game to look at most of the time, and this is PS5, guys. They could do better. I'm Anthony Olan. Thank you for watching this video. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you guys on the next one. Peace out.